and welcome to another episode of My 2 Cent. My name is Paul Emerson, and I will be giving you my 2 cent. Today's topic is going to be on the math of infinite indefinites. So I was talking to my uncle. I've been doing a lot of stuff, and recently I've been doing a lot of math for school, and I was discussing one of my characters, one of the ships in one of my stories that I named the Prime Mover. It has the ability to travel through both space and interdimensions, or retention as I'm going to start referring to it as. And while I was discussing with my uncle and I was listening to him talk, because he asked me how he said, what would it look like if you went from one dimension to another dimension? So the analogy that I gave him that makes the most sense to me, because I've been spending a lot of years trying to conceptualize this information in a way that it would be easily digestible for other people, is that the physical laws and constants of our universe are physical laws and constants. Like they're defined by what attributes they have. There are things about the nature of our universe that doesn't change. So before going any further, I want to establish something about the way that I perceive the reality that I live in. Since I'm creating my own theory of everything, I want to explain the position that I take when I approach that in relation to the universal accepted standard for how we perceive our reality in our universe. So the common definition of the universe is that the universe is the totality of everything that is existing, can exist, will exist, does exist. The universe is in essence existence, and everything that applies or is applicable to that. So my definition of the universe and existence is not the same, in the sense that existence is everything that exists relative to us. So we exist within a relative state of being existing, state of being alive, state of being present, state of being, B-E-I-N-G. We exist relative to a state of being. And that the relativeness nature of that essence, or of our existence, is limited to our existence. We, as we are, cannot transcend our existence without being transessential. So if we're not higher, if we, kind of like the way a fish lives in water, and it had to evolve to live on land to become a land creature, but once it learned to live on land, it lost the ability to live in water in the same context. We have to transcend our ability to exist. We have to transcend being existential beings to being multiversal beings in essence. So, with all that rambling, I'm gonna give you my written definition. Existence is static dimensional coordinates, geometric volume, governed by dynamic forces, the known laws of physics. The known universe is dynamic dimensional coordinates, geometric volume, governed by dynamic forces, the known laws of physics. They operate within each other. And that's why the math kind of makes sense at the moment. It's still a work in progress, and hopefully you guys, if anyone actually watches this video in the comments, will actually be able to work through the process of making it more stable and more applicable to a true theory of everything. So, the universe exists inside of existence. Existence, the definition that the universal accepted definition of our universe applies to a state of existence. Parallel universes exist inside of existence. Parallel existences describe the multiverse. Parallel multiverses describe the omniverse. Parallel omniverses describe omni-existence. Omni-existence is by definition, what we try to describe for our universe. Nothing can exist beyond omni-existence at all, because existence is relative, the way I describe it, and not existence as in the retention or the state of being, but existence in the nature of something that has a sense of presence to where you can observe it. My mother's not, she doesn't exist in this room with me, if that makes sense. I exist in this room by myself currently. She still exists somewhere else in this reality, but she's not physically present here. So that's the way that I'm using the term existence. So the total 100% of everything that exists 100% everything exists inside of the omni-existence. And then the omni-existence is best described by the principles of science, with the lower retentions. So you go omni-existence, omniverse. Let me make sure I'm saying this correctly. My screen went to the, the screensaver. So at the 11th dimension, you have infinite indefinites, which I haven't described, but I'll get to that next. At the 10th dimension, you have omni-existence, which is 100% of everything that can exist, does exist, will exist, and is capable of existence. 9th dimension is omniverse, which is parallel multiverses. At the 8th dimension, you have the multiverse, which is parallel existences. At the 7th dimension, oh man, that chart's wrong. So you have infinite definites, omniverse, you have the multiverse, then you have nope. I can do this. 1 second while I do an edit job. You have omni-existence, then you have the omniverse, then you have the multiverse, then you have existence, then you have the universe. And then these are, what was it? Change, time, space, 2D, and I'm going to put 2R, and here I'm going to put 3 retention, because that just works better for me. 1, 2, 3 retention, 2 retention, and then 1 retention. Here you go. So you have the first retention. Oh, and then this will be 0 retention. Okay. 0 retention, 1 retention, 2 retention, 3 retention. Time would be the first temporal for us. And that's why I like using retention, because technically time is temporal. So it'll be 1t for us. We experience 1 temporal dimension. Change will be 2 temporal retentions. So this will be 2t temporal. 2 temporal plus 3 retention. And then here you have the universe, existence, multiverse, omniverse, omni-existence, etc., 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 so on and so forth. So this is kind of where we get into the math component, because zero dimensions, no space, no time, no change, none of that stuff. If the universe exists where it's been described as a Big Bang that started from a singularity, even in the most commonly accepted scientific model and all mythology and human history that states that everything began from nothing, 0 dimensions is the lowest retention that can exist. Now, I said infinite indefinites. I didn't get into infinite indefinites because this is usually where I lose people. Infinite indefinites basically means no existence, none whatsoever. Nothing exists, nothing, nowhere, nil, ex nil, void, etc. In your brain, try to imagine something that is beyond your ability to imagine. Your inability to do that states the very fact that there are things beyond our ability to comprehend and conceptualize is the foundation upon which I treat as an axiom to state that there are things beyond comprehension that exist that I am not aware of there are things beyond my comprehension that exist because I am not able to observe them. In the same way that a blind person doesn't see light, but it's present everywhere, it's just beyond their ability to perceive. A deaf person can't hear, even though sound is omnipresent, even though a deaf person is unable to hear. I treat those same values for the things beyond our conception as limitations of our own cognitive awareness abilities. It's not that there's an entire existence of things that don't exist. Everything exists. There's not a state of being for non-existence. There is a state of being beyond our conceptualized ability to perceive as existing, and that's infinite indefinite. Parallel existence to our existence, which implies that it is a state of non-existence. Inside of infinite indefinite, another entity like myself is recording a YouTube video right now, trying to do the same thing I'm trying to do, except relative to him, I am beyond his conception to even comprehend. So his description that he's given for me, I'm beyond his ability to comprehend, just like he's beyond my ability to comprehend. So my state of being in our reality, in our omni-existence, is non-existent, parallel to his non-existence. So all non-existence is parallel to all non-existence, and within that, it gives rise to those things that can imagine and be perceived and conceptualized. That was a lot. So, to the math part. So, now that we've established that this is nothingness, let's see if we can do some math. Now, x plus y equals z, right? X plus y equals z. 1 plus 1 equals 2. If 1 plus 1 equals 3, then 1 is not equal to, how do you do the not equal to? Not equal to 1. 1 cannot be equal to 1 if they equal 3. That means that this variable has to also be, I don't even know how to represent that. X 1 equals 1 equals, I don't know how to represent that. 1 equals x. I don't know how to represent this equals some other value. I don't know. Or maybe it will be 1 equals, it would have to be 1 equals 1 minus 3. No. It would have to probably, I don't know. I couldn't honestly tell you mathematically how to describe that, which is the reason why I hate when people say 1 plus 1 equals 3, because it's nonsensical. But the point that I'm trying to make with this whole analogy is that in math, x plus y equals z, but it's relative. So if x plus y equals 3 and x plus y, let's use a bigger number so I can better bring this home. If x plus y equals 5 and x plus y equals 9, right? 2 plus 3 equals 5 and 1 plus 8 equals 9, right? This x and this x are not equal to each other, and this y and this y are not equal to each other, but they both are relative values. So x can equal both 2 and 1, and y can equal both 3 and 8. When you're trying to understand something, you have to find the values that best associate your understanding. So I believe the symbol, I'll look it up. 1 second, I'll be back. So this symbol equals birth parent. And parent is probably not spelled right. This symbol equals birth parent. So the other symbol equals parent. Just to keep this simple, right? So this symbol equals birth parent, this symbol equals parent. This symbol is not, well, I'll use the symbol, is not equal to birth parent. But it is equal to parent. This symbol is not equal to, I need another value for this. Let me throw, I could throw fraternal on there, and fraternal, but I won't do that. I'll say fertile parent. I'll just use the word fertile. I know that's spelled wrong. I can't spell. So this symbol is equal to fertile parent. So this symbol is not equal to fertile parent, but it is equal to parent. So together, both of these symbols are equal to parent. They're both equal to parent. And this is kind of how infinite and definite works, because it's built around inherence. These two symbols are both parents. This symbol is fertile parent. This symbol is a fertile parent. This symbol is this symbol is a fertile parent. This symbol is a birthing parent. They're both parents. And from those values, you get equality. So if I said that this symbol gave birth, as a scientist, when I test that, then I have to accept the fact that if this symbol was observed as giving birth, that it's not the fertile parent, it's this symbol, which means that this would have to be asexual. Just to bring it home, this would have to be asexual. That means that it fertilized itself and gave birth to itself, which means it's self-fertilizing and self-parenting. It's still more this than that, but since it has both values, then it's something new. I don't know, maybe that. Yeah, there you go, something new. So that's the process that we go through. Okay, now, with all that being said, let me try to explain the math. Okay, so zero dimensions, right, should technically be down here. If zero dimensions is equal to non-existence, and no thing is equal to zero, then our retention state should start here, right? It doesn't start there because human beings being an egotistical entity, we believe that our inherent ability to exist makes us greater than, so zero, less than, 0 greater than. So since we exist, since we exist, we must be greater than 0. We should acknowledge that the finity. So if there's an infinite number of possibilities, if you compare our very relative state of being to infinity, we are definitely less than existence. I mean, we should acknowledge that, but our inability to accept that we are not special puts us here. So because we believe that our existence is greater than a state of non-existence, we start here with 0 retention. We start with retention being here when it should be over here in infinity. All I'm trying to say is there's more things that probably don't exist than there are things that do exist. So we should definitely start infinite indefinites at a state of 0, but our minds don't want to acknowledge that. So it makes more sense for us to start with 0 dimensions and then go up to first dimension, because there's an infinite number of possibilities at the first dimension, and there's an infinite number of possibilities at the second dimension, and there's an infinite number of possibilities at the third dimension. And if you combine the first dimension and the second dimension together, you get 2 times, or let's make it really epic, you get infinity squared. Like once you square infinity compared to just our state of infinity, you've already proven that we're less than existence. So without getting too lost in the ambiguity of all of that, we will go back to trying to establish a mathematical ruler for understanding infinite indefinites. So starting with 0, we do this. We say 0 plus infinity, and this is the 0 retention, so I'll put 0R, and then we go plus, and I think I want to do it this way. Then we go plus, this is not work, it's 0R. Maybe I'll put the little, I'll go like that, yeah, there we go. That's 0R plus 1R, so I'll put 1 plus infinity, and this one's going to be 1R, and then I'll do 2 plus infinity, and then this is 3R, and I'm going to quickly run out of room, and then we'll do 3, and then we'll do 4, and then we'll do 5, and we'll do 6, 7. I'm running out of room. Okay. Whew. That's a lot. This is where it starts to get easier. So you have 0 plus infinity, 1 plus infinity, 2 plus infinity, 3 plus infinity, 4 plus infinity, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. We are technically, the universe is here at 6. So what happens is, if we start with my original, go back. We start with our original definitions, and I'll do this just for the sake of describing this stuff. Sorry, I should be more organized, but I'm not. I struggle with organization, and I spend more time trying to organize and filling at it than I do actually producing stuff, so I'm going to stop doing that. So we have existence and all that encompasses it. Existence is static dimensional coordinates, geometric volume, governed by dynamic forces, right? And then here we have the known universe is dynamic dimensional coordinates, geometric volume, governed by dynamic forces, the known laws of physics. So this is the universe that we live in, right? All of the universal constances, the universe is constants and all that stuff, right? Is here. Existence is the universe is inside of existence, which is inside of the multiverse, which is inside of the omniverse, which is inside of omni-existence. And then the whole board represents the infinite expanse of nothingness that encompasses everything, right? So the way I was explaining how interdimensional travel would work to my uncle was like this. Ice freezes. You can't read that, so I'll just say it verbally. Ice freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, right? So I want to go to another dimension, right? In this reality, in this retention that I'm in currently, the universal constant for the temperature that water freezes at on Earth, because temperature, pressure, all that stuff applies. That means that ice freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit. It's probably affected by the actual force of gravity itself. We just don't have instruments sensitive enough to detect that. But I'm digressing. All of the science that we have studied tells us that at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, ice freezes. So I design a device, I push a button, and I say, okay, we're in another dimension. When we arrive at this next dimension, ice freezes at 37 degrees Fahrenheit. Because one of the universal constants of the universe has changed. Well, technically, all of the universal constants of the universe would change, but for just the sake of this analogy and trying to keep this relatively simple, one changed. So now that this one universal constant has changed by 5 degrees, that's how you know you're in another state of existence. What this is that each one of these brackets represents the universal laws and constants within that retention. That means that all of the math that we've done to describe quantum physics, quantum mechanics, and all that stuff are equatable up into these points. That means that our theory of everything stops at our existence because we don't have the math to describe beyond that. You would need a whole other form of math to describe higher dimensions. And we just don't have it because we are too limited in our perception of reality to go beyond that. The only thing we can do is use equations to try to describe phenomenon that we're observing that is beyond our comprehension. We can't technically perceive the quantum. It's beyond our ability to conceive. We cannot view it directly, perceive it directly. The only thing we do as human beings and as scientists is we look at charts and data, and we look at squiggly lines and interpret the information, and then we analogize it on paper. The information is being generated by nature, and that's the only thing that makes it not just like Donald Duck, but it's not as real as the physical medium itself, for lack of better words. And that's kind of, as ambiguous as that is, that's the best that I can get to an infinite indefinite. You can basically take you could take a an atom. So I was watching a video where they're talking about how an electron travels around, the valence shell of an electron travels around an atomic nucleus at a certain distance, at a certain speed, with a certain energy level. You can change the number of that by 1, and now you're describing an entirely new, different universe. Because by changing the value of it, by changing one value of the constant in our universe, you're by definition creating a new universe, because that's not true in our universe. But if there's an infinite number of parallel realities, then it's got to be true to someone else's universe. The same way that most of our science has been predicted before experiments occurred, in the same way that that is true, it is possible for us to say that this value for this electron, while not true for our universe, is true for a parallel universe, or for a parallel multiverse, or for a parallel omniverse. And it's a statement that can't be validated by the principles of science any more than validating the presence of God. But it doesn't make it not true. It doesn't make it not accurate. It doesn't make it completely void of any type of solid foundation of reasoning or logic, simply because it's beyond, there are things beyond human conception. If you try to explain high-level calculus to a 3-year-old, it is beyond their ability to comprehend. Doesn't invalidate calculus. All of the children on the planet that can't do calculus doesn't invalidate the principles of the science of calculus. The inability for you to understand how your combustion engine in your car work doesn't mean that your car doesn't work. It just means that it's beyond your ability to comprehend. Think of something that is beyond your conception. Remember, I asked you that at the beginning of the video. Think of something beyond your ability to comprehend and understand, and you couldn't think of anything. But there are lots of examples in our reality all the time that are things beyond our ability to comprehend that we can truly perceive directly, and then as soon as we observe them, we understand them, and then they stop being beyond our conception. But there are things that are both beyond our conception and beyond our comprehension. Those things are nothingness. Whew. As always, my name is Paul Iverson, and I have just given you my 2 cents. Leave your comments and suggestions in the comment section of YouTube so that I can grow my channel, and I appreciate you guys watching.